A rotary cutter is a tool for cutting flat material, whether it's a kind of fabric you need to cut like cotton or felt or leather or EVA foam. Not unlike a pizza cutter, a rotary cutter will just slice right through. Today I'm going to take a look at this rotary cutter, the OLFA 60mm RTY-3/DX ergonomic rotary cutter. Not the best name in the world, but it is an excellent tool. I love this rotary cutter. One of the best tools I have ever purchased. If you want to see what I think about this rotary cutter, stay with me till the end. For now, let's get going. Rotary cutters are basically like a pizza slicer, and they come in a variety of sizes. There's 18mm, 28mm, 45mm, and this one, the 60mm size. Essentially, the larger the blade, the easier it will be to go through beefier fabric or more layers of fabric or leather or whatever you have. The trade-off is it's a little bit less maneuverable. So if you've got curves to cut, it'll be a little harder with a 60mm blade than it would be with an 18mm blade. Obviously, like any knife, it's pretty sharp. You want to be really careful with it, especially careful when handling the blade. And like any knife, it'll work a lot better and a lot safer if the blade is sharp. Rotary cutters almost never work alone. You're usually buying this as part of a trifecta. You buy the rotary cutter, you buy a self-healing mat to put under your material so that you've got something to cut on. And then usually you buy a straight edge. I'm using a quilting ruler here. It's 1/8 of an inch or a little over 3mm thick. And you can see through it, so it's really easy to make the kind of cuts you want to make. See all your marks on your fabric or your leather or whatever it is. This is how these tools usually work. They usually work together. So this particular OLFA 60mm is sort of the deluxe model. It features an anti-slip grip down the side and a curved handle. The idea, I guess, is that it makes it easier to hold. The feature a lot of people like about this particular model is it has this squeeze handle activation feature where you grab it, you squeeze on the trigger, the blade pushes out from the tool, allowing you to make your cut, and then as you release it, the blade retracts back into the tool to keep everybody safe. It has this excellent lock feature, not unlike a drill. You push in on the red button, that allows the trigger to function. Push the red button the opposite direction, that locks the trigger. So obviously you can lock the blade in the out position, or you could lock it in the in position, depending on whether you wanted to use it a lot or whether you wanted to put it away and keep it safe. The other great feature about this particular model is it's for both right and left-handed users. I'll show you how to change the side just in case you're a lefty or a righty, but in doing so, I'll also be implicitly showing you how to change the blade. The process for changing the blade and flipping the blade from one side to the other is essentially the same. So first thing I'm going to do is lock it so that the blade can't go shifting out on me should I hit the trigger by accident. And then I'm going to put my finger on the silver side of this spindle. The spindle functions like an axle for the wheel, and if I turn it over here, you'll see the locking nut on the other side. Keeping my finger on the spindle underneath to make sure it can't turn, I twist the nut counterclockwise to release it, and you want to put it back in exactly the same configuration it came off in, so I'm going to put it over here safely. Underneath that, there's a little spring washer. It looks kind of like a cowboy hat. The brim is curled up towards me. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to pull it off and put it to the side. Then I flip it over, pull out the spindle, rotate the blade to the other side, and make sure to put the spindle back in on the blade side. This is really important. I have discovered this with this particular model. If you put the spindle in on the wrong side, you will be able to mount the blade. It will not turn very well. Word to the wise, keep the silver side of the spindle on the blade side, regardless of if you're right-handed or left-handed. And so that's what I'm going to do. Then flip it back over so the spindle's on the bottom, easier to work with this way. Put the little cowboy hat washer on. Put the nut back on, facing exactly the same way it was when it came off. Tighten it down as tight as it goes. And I'm good to go. Flipping to the other side, just the same thing in reverse. And then as far as cutting goes, most importantly, you got to be able to take a straight edge that has a little bit of thickness to it. It's way easier to cut with a rotary cutter if you've got some thickness to your straight edge. That's why quilting rulers are kind of thick like this. So I just line up my wheel with the edge of my straight edge. I make sure to start cutting off the fabric. I'm not putting the wheel on the fabric to start with. I'm actually starting a little bit behind the fabric, and then I just push. I'm pushing away from myself because cutting towards yourself is a great way to cut yourself. And I push right through. I'm pushing past the edge of the fabric just to make sure that I make the cut nice and clean. Because once I remove my straight edge, it'll be really hard to get it lined up again. I really want to get this right the first time, and if there was a little skip, or if there was a part in the fabric I didn't quite cut, I want to know now. But each time with this, I found it quite easy. I found it easy to go through this material. This is upholstery fabric here. And then I tried some pretty thick felt. And then I moved on to 3mm EVA foam. The rotary cutter handled all of that perfectly. There was no skipping. There was no wandering. As long as I put enough pressure on my straight edge, and I kept my wrist straight, and I made sure to push with an even amount of force through the entire cut, I found it quite easy to make really, really straight cuts. Definitely an improvement over scissors. OLFA says this blade can cut through 12 layers of cotton fabric in one pass. I have not tried that. I don't think I ever will, but I will put it through a number of layers of foam. And if you guys want to see how it does, I will show you the project I'm working on in an upcoming video. So stay tuned for that. But for those of you uninitiated in the rotary cutting world, I hope that helped you out. If it did, please feel free to like or subscribe. Liking and subscribing can really help a channel. And if you could do that for this channel, I'd really appreciate it. And as always, take care, stay safe, have fun with your DIY projects, and I'll see you next Saturday.